Yo, 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 what is up, everybody? Popo here bringing you guys a new video, and today we're going to learn how to analyze our games. Let's go. Welcome, everybody, and today we're going to be learning how to analyze our games through Showdown. I did a video about this quite a while ago, like learning from your losses or whatever, but I'm just going to update it, and we're going to look at a couple other things and what you should look for when you are analyzing your games. I also want to apologize if any of my quality of my videos off, whether it's the audio or whatever. Please let me know. I just got some new PC parts. I have tried to get everything working properly. It's been kind of a struggle because I lost one USB 3 port, which is kind of unfortunate. So if there is anything weird going on with the sound or the quality of the video, just let me know. I would appreciate it very, very much. But anyways, guys, yeah. So analyzing your games is extremely important, especially if you're newer to VGC. And even if you've been playing for a million years, it's still super, super important. And all the best players they all analyze their games. And they have a group of players often that will go through and analyze the games with them. So I'm going to show you what that looks like and why you should be analyzing your games. So I'm going to have here a win and loss, because no matter if it's a win or if it's a loss, it is super, 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 super important to be analyzing these games, because even in wins, you could have made mistakes. So I want to draw attention to this one here. First our game is Caly-I Shadow Rider, and we're using Ice Rider. So right away, you got to make sure that you are picking the right leads. But we do have a Rillaboom against their psychic terrain, so that gives us a little bit of an advantage, right? And of course they have the Clefairy, and you got to be very careful, especially if you're on ladder and not doing best of 3, which this is just regular ladder. These could have after you, so they want you to set up Trick Room. Then Clefairy is slower than Caly-I, so that way they can still attack under Trick Room as if they didn't even have it. So you have to be very careful for Clefairies. I don't really know what the Crocodile does going into this match, and Smeargle can be very volatile, so we need to put pressure onto Smeargle on turn 1. And it can go for Fake Out or Spore, so we got to be very careful for that as well. So going in here, I want to make sure I'm leading Trick Room, so I can put a lot of pressure on that way. And also, if I have a Pokemon that can take advantage of being faster than Caly-I, which I do, with Choice Scarf Urshifu, I want to make sure I'm leading that pressure too. So that's what I'm going to do first here. We're going to lead our 2 Pokemon. So going into this lead, analyzing this lead right away, my opponent looks like they have an advantage, and that is perfectly okay, because we are we're trying to go for an end game rather than trying to win this early game, especially with a slower Caly-I team. So know your team when you're going to go analyze, and make sure you're taking that into account as well. So we're looking for end game rather than early game. A lot of teams like Caly-I and stuff, they're looking for early game advantages, so that way they can win in the end game. We're looking for letting them take a little bit of the early game, so that way we can take advantage of the end game. So it's a kind of a weird, back and forth, and you just got to know your team and what your team is trying to do at the end of the day, and either know if your team should be aggressive on those first turns, or if they should be holding back and allowing your opponent to take a couple of steps forward, so that way you can win at the end of the day. So here our main goal is to allow our opponent to actually take a little bit of advantage. So and going into this first turn, I do something that's a little bit unorthodox, and sometimes that's really good to throw your opponent off. So I go for the Protect. I figure here is going to be Expanding Force, so I don't want to Terrasilize. They're trying to force me into the Terrasilization and the Trick Room. It's a pretty obvious play by my opponent to go for the Follow Me to take the Urshifu attack, and then go for the Expanding Force to get massive damage in the Caly-I and knock out the Urshifu. And this is okay for me. I don't need the Urshifu after this lead, because I know I can go really, really slow. I know that they probably have Clefairy, and they're going to have Caly-I, and I don't know if it's going to be Armarouge, Smeargle, or Crocodile, but since the other 2 are already supports, I doubt it's going to be Smeargle, so it's going to be one of the other 2. So all I need to do is get terrain advantage at the moment. So I can bring in Rillaboom, which was my 3rd Pokemon I brought, and the reason why I brought Rillaboom is for this specific reason. So looking at the game state here, my opponent is in a pretty good position. They get a special attack boost on Caly-I. You know, they got Indeedee, who can follow me away attacks. They can also switch it out so they can get Psychic Terrain up again. So they get a lot of options here. But I am also putting a lot of pressure because now I have a Caly-I that's boosted, and I have a Rillaboom who could fake out. So the only way that Rillaboom doesn't really do too much here is if this goes for Astral Barrage and tears into Ghost type. So that could be a bit unfortunate. But I make an aggressive play here, and like I said, we're building up for an end game, right? We're not trying to win the early game, and the early game is basically done already, as we didn't really give them control. They think they have control right now, but they don't. So I make a super aggressive play. I figure they're going to go for the Protect and switch into the Clefairy, just giving up the mid game to my Trick Room so they can take advantage of it with Clefairy. But I read this and I go for the Wood Hammer. And I know Wood Hammer plus Grassy Glide is always a knockout on Clefairy. Just experience or damage calcs. You can do damage calcs for these things. I don't personally do damage calcs while I'm playing the matches, but you can do whatever you like. So here, I am now in a really good position because Clefairy is beat up. I have a +1 onto the Caly-I from that first aggressive, like that first more passive turn where I was setting up for that late game. So just analyzing what's going on here, my opponent has no pressure on me, and I have significant amounts of pressure. My opponent could go for a play that is something like switch into Indeedee and go for Astral Barrage. This would be a pretty good play by my opponent, though it doesn't get a knockout on either of my Pokemon. Trick Room will still be up, and Clefairy will still almost be knocked out. And another Astral Barrage will take out both of the Pokemon. So it's really risky for my opponent to do so. And if they switch into their third Pokemon, it's just going to take a massive amount of damage. Even if it is Armarouge isn't the strongest defensively, so it's going to still take significant damage from +1 Glacial Lance. So I assume it'll be a 2-hit knockout, but with the Rillaboom going for Grassy Glide, it'll definitely be a 2-hit knockout. But they end up just staying in and trying to go for the After You plays, and I know that because they didn't go for Follow Me, and they also Terastallized here. So they're going to be able to do a lot of damage, but unfortunately for them, they do not survive because we did go for that +1. So it just shows that we set up in the early game and let our opponent take that advantage, and we were able to win in the end game because they just didn't have enough resources to outmaneuver us, which was really, really strong. And they're just going to go and forfeit there. So, because here we just have so much pressure with both of these Pokemon, we could switch out the Rillaboom, which is what I did. I had Farigiraf in the back, because Farigiraf always beats Caly-I, basically, because it's just so good. Though I do have Shadow Ball instead of Foul Play, but that's beside the point. But yeah, so we just have so much pressure here, and the opponent really can't do anything to thwart a +2 Caly-I with 3 turns of Trick Room remaining. He's never going to be able to get off of Foul Play, just because I just have so much pressure. And even if he does, then I still got Rillaboom out there, so it is what it is. But yeah, so just looking at that game and analyzing it a little bit, is we put a lot of offensive pressure at the mid game. On the second turn, we were already in a really good position to take control. We let our opponent get a little bit of an edge up, which is perfectly fine in your games. A lot of people think, oh, if my Pokemon gets knocked out, it's kind of over. But it's not. Don't think that way. Because thinking that your one Pokemon is why you're going to win the game, often isn't really the reason why you're going to win the game. It's going to come down to positioning, and it's going to come down to getting those matchups that you want. Of course, if your main key Pokemon gets knocked out on the first turn, it's going to be a lot harder, especially if it's like you're restricted or something. But like we lost Urshifu, arguably the best Pokemon on the format, just like non-restricted best Pokemon on the format. And we let him get knocked out first turn, but he didn't leave without doing something, right? That's why I'm running coaching, because I can have those passive turns that turn into aggressive turns later on. That's important. Once again, this Pokepaste will be down below. This was I used this team in another video too, so it was already out there. But now this is a loss. So this is a pretty tough matchup. Like Zamazenta is really, really good against Caly-I. And just my team in general is pretty physical. I have one special attacker that really is able to do anything. So there's kind of a lot going on, but we just have to make sure that we're taking control in the beginning of the game. This is opposite of what we just did, right? That's what I mean by knowing your matchups and understanding what you have to do to win the game. Here, against Zamazenta, they want to do something similar to Caly-I, where they are just going for the longer game, and then they can win in mid to end game situations, where Caly-I wants to win in those end game situations, but against Zamazenta, you have to be aggressive early, and you have to make sure that you're putting on that pressure, enabling yourself to win those games. So, oh, I am sorry, because that was actually, you guys probably can't even hear that, can you? No, you cannot. Okay. Sound muted. Okay. It was really loud. Luckily, you guys can hear. But I lead the same thing, right? That's why I wanted to show this game and compare it, because we have Caly-I Urshifu, and now they have Chen Pao and Zamazenta. That's giving our Urshifu a bit of a boost because of this Chen Pao. We're able to do a little bit more damage, especially into something like that Zamazenta that we hit for super effective. So here we need to get Trick Room up. If you look at their team, it's really, really fast besides Raging Bolt. And we have the Urshifu, who does put pressure on Zamazenta and Chen Pao, and this is where I make a mistake right on the first turn here. And this is why it's important, because I went for something very, very similar. I was kind of expecting them to go for a wide guard plus a throat chop into my Caly-I, and that's not what came out here. It was kind of a toss-up, because I was going back and forth whether or not they would just double up into Caly-I with throat chop and body press, and I thought they would leave Urshifu alone. I should have just attacked with the Urshifu, and that, like I said, that's where I made the first mistake. So we do see the throat chop, but we see body press in the Urshifu, and it leaves it at such low life that now Urshifu's kind of just lost anything he could have done. Just because I did that. If I would have just went for a close combat into Zamazenta even, it would have knocked out Urshifu, which would have been fine because we would have got a damage trade. Or we could have just went for Surging Strikes into Chen Pao, putting at a low amount of health, which then we're trading HP for HP, which anytime you're trading HP for HP, you're doing okay. You're not, hurt for this. So, I think that is perfectly fine. But we do get the Trick Room set up, but now we can't switch out the Urshifu because there's just so much pressure on it. And this is where I make the second mistake. I expect Zamazenta to just go for Wide Guard. They're usually not running Protect. There are sets, of course, that do run Protect, and it's not super uncommon, but it's usually Wide Guard. And if it's Iron Defense, or I've even seen Snarl recently, so there's been a couple of other moves that have been used on it, but I wasn't expecting Protect, so I went into it, and I kept in my Urshifu just in case they went for the Wide Guard. We can get a lot of damage on Zamazenta. They double up into Caly-I. We get another boost on Caly-I. In hindsight, I probably should have switched out Urshifu because I would need it in the back against their Landorus, but I didn't take that into consideration, and I was just playing pretty poorly after that first turn because I just felt like I was in a really bad position, and now I'm playing from behind. So I bring in Landorus, which I wasn't sure what Terra the Zamazenta was going to be because I did play on ladder. So it ended up being Dragon, which isn't uncommon once again, which is, I wasn't surprised when it terrestrialized into Dragon. I was hoping it was going to be Fire. It wasn't. And I figure he's going to go Wide Guard here, and I thought for a minute, like, okay, if he goes Wide Guard, then I should probably just double into it with high horsepower plus earth power, and I'm going to do some pretty good damage. I don't know if I get the knockout, but I'm going to do some pretty good damage. And but I need to be careful for Chen Pao, because if Chen Pao attacks into Landorus, then I need a way to knock that out. So I actually go into the Landorus, or into the Chen Pao, and he actually doesn't go for the Wide Guard. So now I'm starting to think maybe he doesn't even have Wide Guard, and that's why he's going for these. Because here we could have went for Glacial Lance, and we could have did really, really good damage as a Zamazenta and got the knockout on Chen Pao, because once again, I doubled up into the Chen Pao getting knockout, and we just take a body press, which didn't do too much damage, but put us in a pretty good position. And now we see the Wide Guard. So I'm like, well, I guess they do have the wide guard. And it makes sense because they want to protect the Landorus. I can't hit it with high horsepower, and as long as Zamazenta's alive, I can't hit it at all. So he could just keep this combo out there, and that's what I mean. I should have saved the Urshifu. At this point, I was like, man, I should have just saved the Urshifu. If I save Urshifu, I think I was in a really good position. So I can't really hit it with Landorus. I can't hit it with Glacial Lance, which I do go for because I thought he didn't have the wide guard now. And I go for the substitute, which is just going to set me up later. He goes for the Sandsear Storm, and he does hit, and it does really, really good damage. He goes for the Protect with Landorus. This is the last turn of Trick Room, of course. We have our Landorus sitting behind this. Just goes for the double Protect, which is fine. Here, I should have probably thought for a second and just switched out Calyrex to preserve it for later, because I do have Ogerpon in the back, so I can do some follow me stuff if I want to, but Body Press plus Sandsear Storm is always going to get a knockout. So here, I pretty much figure I've already lost the game. I don't think I can win at this point. And he shows his last move, and that's going to be the Heavy Slam. I don't think the crit mattered, because I think it still just does just enough. We are a bulkier Landorus than most would be. We're pretty slow. And yeah, I'm like, okay, if it's Sandsear Storm, we might be able to live with the Calyrex, but makes a smart move and actually goes for the Sludge Bomb. We did some huge damage with the Earth Power, which made me kind of sad, because I think we would have knocked out with Earth Power plus that high horsepower there, and I think with that we would have won the game. But unfortunately, we did not make that play, and he goes for the heavy slam. If I knew he was going to go for the Sandsear Storm, I thought this was going to be Sludge Bomb. I don't know if he forgot that I Terrestrialized, because there's no reason to go for Sandsear Storm, because it never hits Landorus, and it's only neutral to Ogerpon. So I don't know why that choice was made, but it made me feel a little bit more confident about the next turn. But I was like, well, I can get rid of Zama here, but there's nothing else I can really, like, I get rid of Zama there, but there's nothing else I can really do. They bring in the Tornadus, they actually set up the rain, and that's pretty much GG, because, yeah, that just does nothing, and the Sludge Bomb just does nothing. And I was going to go rid of the Landorus just in case, because it has consistent damage, whereas Tornadus has to rely on Hurricane or Bleak Wind Storm. I didn't know that they were going to have rain. I mean, a lot of them do, because they have Zamazenta, and he had Sandsear Storm, so I kind of figured he did, but I have to play for it as if he didn't and hope that they just don't have it. And that's something you got to keep in mind too when you're playing these games, is just play as if your opponent didn't have it, unless you know 100% that they do have it, because never underestimate your opponent's ability to throw the game. That's a big skill in VGC, honestly. It's a huge skill. People are very prone to throwing games, so always play to your opponent throwing the game. That's why I kept playing this match. Hindsight, maybe I should have just kept Zamazenta around and just went for the knockout on Landorus a turn before instead of going for the Spiky Shield, but I thought it was going to be Sludge Bomb, so like I just wanted to make sure that I didn't lose Ogerpon on that turn, and my Ogerpon also isn't max speed. They don't know that, but my Ogerpon's not max speed. If it was max speed, then, you know, we still, like, Tornadus still outspeeds us, but I don't know. We just put ourselves in a lot of bad positions, and recognizing that is a very important tool when you're analyzing your games, is going, okay, why was this position bad for me, right? If we go right back to that first turn, why is this position bad for me? It's actually not. And knowing that is also, once again, very important. This is not a bad position for me. What was a bad thing for me is making the wrong play. Here, Urshifu should have 100% went into Chien-Pao, and this should have went for Trick Room like it did. And that way, once again, we get a damage trade rather than a losing position. They have nothing besides Raging Bolt that could hit Water Calyrex for super effective, so it was really good to go into Water Calyrex. It didn't really affect us that much. And if they do have Raging Bolt, we always have the Ogerpon Hearth Flame, which might have been a mess up bringing that as well. Maybe it was Rillaboom going to be a little bit better. That way we can have Fake Out support. but it just doesn't do anything in the matchup. Like, these both get hit for super effective. We hit Urshifu Water for super effective. We don't know which Urshifu it is. And Grassy Glide, or Ivy Cudgel, does some really good damage into Landorus, so that's, you know, really good too. But here we just put ourselves in a pretty poor position, and they position themselves well to have Tornadus Landorus in the back during the end game. We should have just went for the knockout Chien-Pao, switched this into the Ogerpon, or we could have switched into Landorus. Landorus would have been risky. I think the Ogerpon would have been a better call. And then we have Calyrex Ogerpon instead of Calyrex, you know, dead Urshifu. So we would have just been in a better position. And once again, recognizing that is very important. And having Trick Room up and, you know, calling a Protect or calling a Wide Guard is really hard, especially if you don't know the opposition has them. Like, once again, sometimes it's Protect, no Wide Guard, sometimes it's Protect, Wide Guard, sometimes it's, you know, there's a million different things, right? So it could do so many different things. And we just got to be prepared for those and make the right calls sometimes and just play smart. But they preserve their Wide Guard very, very well. And that made it really hard for me to actually, like, you know, counter it if I wanted to, because I wasn't sure if they had it. It just wasn't obvious at the time. It was like lingering, but it was like, well, do I just play as if they don't have it? But I mean, if they're going to use it, they're going to use it now, right? That kind of thing. But I can't hit this anyways, so I might as well just go for it. Like, all those back and forths, you just got to really take into consideration. And is the consistent damage better, or is just trying to get a double knockout better? You might as well just take the consistent damage most of the time. I chose not to because I already felt like I was behind. And sometimes you just got to slow it down, right? Just slow it down. Slow it down. And if you already think you're going too slow, slow it down. Slow it down. But yeah, that is me analyzing my games. So yeah, just do this. If take your Showdown. Showdown's really easy to do this with. If you can get a cheap, like, video, what's it called, like an Elgato, but it doesn't have to be Elgato, but like one of those, definitely get one, because you can record your regular games, save that information, and you can use that and review those games as well, especially if you're entering the, like, Limitless tours and stuff like that. You'll be able to look back at your games and you'll improve immensely, especially in best of threes like that. You will improve so much, and it's a really, I feel like, underutilized skill that you can gain without having to really do anything more than what you're doing now. Just take some time out. Like, if you keep losing games, take a break from those games and just start analyzing them instead of just clicking out, like, rage quitting every single game and just, like, clicking play again. Like, you need to slow down in between matches. You can do this in between matches. Like, if you feel like you're getting a little bit tilted, be like, okay, I'm going to go watch some of the replays of the matches I've already had. Why, now that I'm getting into 1300, 1400 ladder, am I starting to lose a little bit more? Like, what's the reason? Where am I going wrong? Is it the same restricted I keep losing to? Is it the same couple of Pokemon? Is it my leads? Like, just watch your replays a few times and just really note what you're doing. Take notes if you want to, like physical notes. Do some matchup calculations, do all that kind of stuff, and just improve at the game slowly. This is going to be a slow process. Don't think that analyzing your games and then tomorrow you're now going to win, you know, the regional championship. So, but yeah, we have an event coming up this weekend, so we'll see what Regulation G is going to bring. Will Miraidon bring home another title? Will Calyrex Ice Rider finally win an event? Who knows? But we'll have to wait and see. But thank you, everybody, for watching. If you did enjoy the video, make sure you guys thumbs it up. If you're not subscribed, make sure you do so. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, everybody.